This is what I want. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we get started with this week's plugin school, Building Basic Plugins. I'm Karistina Lafae, and this is week 2 of my plugin school classes. Last week we went over how to use plugins, and today we're going to start building some. We have a variety of experience going on in among the class today. So if you haven't built any plugins, that's okay. I'm going to teach you now. And if you have built plugins, I'll answer your questions as we go along. So if you want to build plugins, you're going to want to go up to the plugins link on your screen in Sudowrite. I have it open in a separate tab because I bookmark it. But you'll see there's the whole list of different plugins you can add. And then there's the button down here to create your own. So we're going to click create, and we've got it set to basic, which is what we're going to do today. We're not going to get an advanced today. That's for next week after we cover basic plugins today. So we may build 1 plugin today. We might build 5 plugins today. So we'll just see how it goes. I think Ingrid suggested doing a developmental editor plugin. Did you have anything? Did anybody have anything in particular they wanted a plugin to do? As far as developmental editing? No. Okay, so let's see. Or no, we were talking about changing point of view. That's what we're gonna do. I was already forgetting. Okay, name is a required field. So we're going to say switching from first person to third person. Do we want present tense, past tense? Amp up the action as a developmental.
Past tense, maybe, or do we
Okay.
have to put that in the
Past
title?
tense. Yeah, we'll do past tense. And we can get to the developmental editor plugin after this one, because this one's pretty basic. I've already built a similar plugin to switch from third person past tense to first person. But this is the reverse in case you decided, you know what, this isn't working for me in first person, so we're gonna shake it up and try third person instead. So the first thing you want to do is you have to give your plugin a name. It says choose a short, distinct name. This is a little long. Maybe I'll just take out the past tense because that's probably implied, but we'll get more to it in the description. The description is the second thing you're going to want to do because as it tells you in a big red line here is that description is a required field. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in here the description that people will see after the plugin is published. This plugin will change your text from first person POV to third person past tense POV. I'll probably want to expand on that later, but that's what I got for now. Was somebody trying to speak, or do we have an open mic somewhere? Okay. After you write your description, the next fields you have to look at are visibility, instructions visibility, and category. Under visibility, you can choose published, where everyone can see your plugin, which is what we're going to do today. Or you can have it unlisted and say anyone with the plugin link can see your plugin, which means you don't want it to be public for everybody to be able to use, but maybe you and your writing partners have something you want to use amongst yourselves, and you can publish a plugin. If I made a plugin just for myself, do you get dinged for credits? You do not use any credits while writing a plugin. You do use credits when you use the plugin. And the instructions visibility, you can have hidden, where only you can see your instructions. I do this for some of my more complicated plugins just because it would be way too overwhelming to show people everything that I'm telling the AI to do, or visible so that anyone can see your plugin's instructions. And we may as well do that for this one. You also, we were just trying to figure that out, which LLM the plugins rely on. Okay, it is 3.5 turbo for GPT. That's a pretty inexpensive model, and it's not as smart as GPT-4, but it's not bad. It can do a lot. You also have to select a category when you create a plugin. We've got narrative and plot, character development, editing and revision, scene enhancement, world building, analysis and feedback, marketing, genre specific, and multilingual. I can only speak English, so I will never be publishing a multilingual plugin. But there are people who do specialize in those, and but for this, we are going to use editing and revision because that's what we're doing by switching up the POV. It will give you an error message if you try to publish your plugin without choosing a category or using a name or a description. When you go down to your instructions, it tells you Sudowrite will read the highlighted text or the text before the cursor, then follow these instructions. And it has just sample text to show you what your instructions might look like. We're going to delete this because that's not what we want it to do. And we're going to say, read the highlighted text and read the highlighted text which is written in first person POV. Yes, the instructions block is where you put coding. Since we're doing basic plugins today, we are going to not be doing too much with code. Next week with advanced plugins, we will get into some more of the code. Oh yes, and thank you John about the multilingual plugins working better if you write them in that language that you intend the output to be in. But when you're doing a basic plugin like this, you can write just natural instructions the way you would talk to a person. Well, sort of. You're talking to the AI, so you need to make sure you're very clear about what you want it to do. So we have read the highlighted text, which is written in first person POV, then rewrite it as third person past tense POV. And because we don't want it to also change all the rest of the words in here, we're going to tell it, do not change any of the other text except for what is necessary. If I can type necessary properly, what is necessary for the perspective switch. Okay, so now it does tell you to be precise and specific, as if writing for an assistant who can't ask you follow-up questions. I think that's pretty direct, and we will see. We'll see. I guess I'll use my own book because I did not prepare anything from first person to use here. So when you scroll down, you could just publish the plugin after you write it, but that's a really bad idea because you don't know if it's going to work. So what you want to do is you want to scroll down, and it tells you to paste or type an example input, which is what the text would be if you highlighted it in your manuscript. So I went in and yes, testing is free. I copied my whole chapter here from my book, and we're going to paste it in. It's funny because I used the plugin that I wrote for myself to change from third person to first person, and now we're going to change it back into third person. So this should be interesting. So we're going to run test. We'll find out. When you run the test, it's going to show you the input, and these are the instructions. You're a helpful writing assistant. Follow the directions of the users. Here's the passage of text, and here's everything that I copied and pasted. And okay, with basic plugins, I forgot the word count is much smaller than when I pick other models. So let's just delete some of those, see if it works. Now, yes, after I deleted the words, it's now coming back. And we got the card output. So she thought she had made a mistake. Coming here was probably a mistake. There were too many people there waiting to watch people beat the heck out of each other, people like her half-brother Jeffrey. The word limit in advanced mode, you can actually adjust this. You can determine how much the model, the LLM that you choose to use for your plugin will allow as the maximum. And not to confuse you by going into advanced mode, but I just want to double check. GPT-5 Turbo works with up to 3,000 words input plus output. So that's, if you're doing basic plugins, that's what you have to work with, up to 3,000 words, including your instructions, including the highlighted text, and it does also look at preceding text by default. Words, not tokens. I Yeah, it's, they tell us the amount in words. It may not be exact, but that's about what you can expect it to work with, is that number of words. So this isn't working all that well because first person, I don't have her name, the name of my main character. Um, where does my main character have her name? Doesn't look like we see it anytime soon, and it's just using she, and because we did reach the 3,000 word or whatever, Janice is a secondary character in the story. She is the main character's best friend. The way it starts out is, I think I made a mistake. Coming here was probably a mistake. And it makes a lot more sense in first person than it does in third. We do have, did you see that takedown carry? Janice screamed to me, not expecting a reply, but when we get back down to the card output, it doesn't say anything. So what we're going to do is you can enable story Bible data, which if you're familiar with Sudowrite, you can do. Let's, I copied the beginning of Bram Stoker's Dracula for demonstration purposes. So, Story Bible, if you're in your document, you can click over here on the right side of your screen, underneath where your documents go. If you click Story Bible on, yes, the Story Bible data will help flesh things out. And since we were having some issues with the AI not knowing what my main character's name was, what we're going to do is enable the characters box. On here for the Dracula one, I don't have the characters box filled in because it's not my story. It was already written. But it would be here. Yes, storybook or story Bible data does eat input words. So you have to play a careful balance. When you build basic plugins, since you have that maximum input plus output is about 3,000 words, the more you have in your characters box that we're going to put in an AI call to, that's going to eat up words we have from output too. So I'm going to shorten the text even more because we're definitely not going to get to the end of that many. Why plugins are good or necessary? All right, I'll get to that in a minute after we just tweak the plugin a little bit. Again, this is my work in progress, so I'm a little protective, but at the same time, you know, this is what we're doing here. Okay, we'll just have, we only need the first few characters here. Preceding text, when you're running a test, you can click on additional variables since I click the characters box, that's the only one we're going to worry about filling in, because it's only going to look at the characters box, since that's what I checked off. So we don't need Magnus in this chapter. Okay. So I enabled Story Bible data because I have my characters box filled out in my manuscript. It's still the third draft, so it's not finished. I chose some text from the beginning of chapter 1. It's in the first person point of review. We're not worrying about preceding text because I don't have any here. We're not worrying about the pre-filled things for anything else but characters. I pasted my characters in here. So now I'm going to go up and change my instructions to say, please. There's no Bigfoot in this story, but we might meet him later on in this series. Who knows? Please refer to the characters box or characters list to know who the main character is. And we'll see if that, yeah, Bigfoot is good to have on the bench for those special times. We will see if that is enough to rerun our test and see if it gives my main character a name instead of just calling her she the whole time. You do have to scroll past all of these extra boxes to run the test again. So again, test result, it's showing you the prompt, and the prompt includes the highlighted text. And then it goes on, since I put a check mark by the character box in Story Bible, it also says here are the characters of the story, and this is the information about the characters from my Story Bible. I only picked the 3 I care about, and that's actually a good tip for when you're using plugins like this. Only include the information necessary. If you want to take down a plugin and want to start over, yes, there is a way to delete that, and I can show you that. If you figured out a better revision, you can actually edit your plugins too after you've published them, if you would like to edit it to be better. Unless you're really changing how it works. If you require new instructions, you don't want to screw things up for people who are using your plugin already. Oh, good. So since it's referencing the character box, we got Carrie Swift thought she had made a mistake. Coming to the venue was probably a mistake, she pondered. It is rewriting a little bit more than I would like. But overall, it's really not that bad. You're really not going to get something completely usable without revisions when you run a plugin. They just do some of the tedious stuff that you don't want to have to do yourself. Like if you have 100,000 word manuscript and you wrote it in one POV and you want to switch it to another POV, that is a lot of tedious work requiring attention, time, and you could easily miss references to characters and stuff. So, but this will do. Yeah, 100K, you're already clenching your teeth. That was the second draft of this work in progress. Was already 100,000 words before I started using Sudowrite. And I made it my NaNoWriMo project to change the POV from third person to first person. Thankfully, getting into the plugin beta so that I could write the plugin and do it much faster. There are a lot of things I can't get into this week because I'm trying to keep it basic. So we'll talk about changing models, like which LLM you're using, whether it's GPT 3.5 or GPT 4 or something completely different like Mixtral Instruct or Google Gemini Pro. This week, it's just GPT 3.5 Turbo is your default when you're creating a basic plugin. So that's all we have to work with. Maximum 3,000 words input plus output. Our instructions are very short, but since it is bringing in information from the characters box, those words all count too. I know I got a little more all over the place than I had intended to at the beginning. So if you have any questions, please ask. But yeah, this isn't perfect, but let's publish it so we can see what's going on. We hit publish plugin, and here we are. The plugin has been published. We've got switching from first person to third person, created by me. User 1 is me. Credit usage is 2 out of 4, so you know it's not going to be too expensive, but it's also not the cheapest it could be to run this plugin. This was the description we wrote. This plugin will change your text from first person POV to third person past tense POV. And it tells you the instructions because we chose to not hide the instructions. We chose for them to be visible. So it shows you what the instructions are that the AI is seeing. Yes, basic mode is good for basic stuff like title generation that doesn't require much input reading. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for now. And by default, it will always have in basic, here's a passage of text, preceding text, highlighted text, and then because we chose to have the Story Bible characters box included because it wasn't doing enough, it didn't have enough context to do the job we told it to do without the character box. So it has the characters list and then the instructions we told it. Read the highlighted text, which is written in first person point of view, then rewrite it as third person past tense point of view. Do not change any of the other text except for what is necessary for the perspective switch. Please refer to the characters list to know who the main character is. Then you'll see.
Can you show, you see the brackets preceding text and highlighted
Yep.
text? I'm confused.
Okay.
When you showed originally the panel, you took out originally the whole chapter and then you said, too many
Yep.
words. What are you talking about there about preceding and highlighted text?
Okay. This is the code part that you don't have to worry about when you see it when you're writing a plugin because this is already pre-filled in basic mode. We're going to click edit here because you can edit your plugin at any time. We'll go back into edit mode and all right, actually, you know what? Let me go in here. We want to go back to Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is written in first person actually. So I can try it on here. how you would use this plugin, actually, I need to refresh this page so that it acknowledges that I have a new plugin that I use. So it's in my plugins list. So we're going to highlight. Let's do just the first couple of paragraphs. We're going to go to plugins and we're going to scroll down because I forgot to remove a bunch of plugins to make this easier. We find the plugin that we just wrote and published, switching from first person to third person. We're going to click the button. And you can see in the right sidebar, it's doing what we told it to do.
Is it easy to copy that sidebar stuff, or is there a little button at the bottom about
when you
put the clipboard
scroll down, you'll see, because it's rewriting that whole passage into the third person. You can then either copy it to your clipboard by clicking the copy button, or if you like how it is and you just want to take the highlighted text and replace it with the output, you just click insert and it's going to change all the text for you. Because you already had it highlighted, it just replaced what was highlighted with the inserted text. And yes, there's no preceding text in this case because we started at the beginning. I didn't want to confuse it because I didn't give it instructions for what to do with preceding text. So that's why we started at the beginning of the chapter here. As you can see, it's not perfect. It's not necessarily good reading, changing it like this. He left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st of May, arriving at Vienna early the next morning. They should have arrived at 6:46, but the train was an hour late. Budapest seemed like a wonderful place, but from the glimpse they got of it from the train and the little they could walk through the streets, they feared to go very far from the station as they had arrived late and would start as near to the correct time as possible. Since it's written from Jonathan Harker's journal, yeah, Bram Stoker's uncle published this. We're actually going to undo this. You can Control Z. You can Control Z to undo things. That's your keyboard shortcut. If you ever need to undo something you've done, you can press Control Z on your keyboard as a shortcut. That's on a Windows machine. I don't remember. Is it called the command button? Yeah, on an Apple product? I think it would be Command Z would be undo. Because you have Control C or Command C for copy. Control V, Command V for paste, and you have Control or Command Z for undo. I use undo a lot, but there also is history here. You can see previous versions of your draft by clicking on the little clock here for your document history. So, it works much better the way Bram Stoker originally wrote it from Jonathan Harker's point of view, because it reads rather tediously in third person. It's not often you're going to be switching from first person to third person. So this isn't a plugin with the most useful intent, but it will occasionally happen that you're going to want to do something like that. And yeah, you'll have the plugin output will show up in your right hand sidebar here. It will show your history, and you can retrieve this anytime you'd like. It will always be here in your sidebar. So I chose not to use it because I undid the changes we made. But if I wanted to, a week from now, a couple months from now, as long as I still have my Sudowrite subscription, I could still go back and decide, you know what, I am going to copy that and then I'm going to paste it in there and use it instead. I drag these things around so I can get back and forth between my tabs. So we can edit the plugin, we can edit the name for the plugin, we can edit the description for the plugin, we can even choose to hide the instructions. We can change the instructions, we can decide to disable story Bible data or add more if we wanted it to input style, genre, brain. Not recommended again because of the word limit. Is history historical over your whole account or tied to each of your projects? It is actually chapter specific within your projects. You have to be on the chapter that you're working on to see what you've run in each chapter. So that way, if you have a book and it's like 30 chapters long, that would be an awful lot of stuff to have in the history of one sidebar to scroll through. So it will only show you what you've run in that chapter. So it's not too much. Yeah, it would drive me crazy too. I am easily distracted and get frustrated. My neurodivergent self can't handle quite that much. So yeah. And if you're not going to actually I'll show you what happens, because before we had the instructions set to visible, I've changed them to hidden. I'm going to save the plugin, and because it's already published, it's not going to automatically bring me to the plugin screen that other people will see in the directory. So we're going to go back to plugins, and since I wrote it, I'm going to go to yours, which will show me all of the plugins I've written. And then I can click on it from here. And now you see that all it will tell you, if you're just in the plugins directory, you do not need to refresh to see the changes you've made. It's only when you want to use it that you need to refresh. But now you can see all it tells you is this one single line of description, which isn't that great because we haven't told people how many characters you can use, what the LLM is, stuff like that. I'm going to cover that more next week, because it's more important once you start adding more variables to let plugin users know. Like I will, not your instructions, description. I'm going to say this plugin uses GPT 3.5 Turbo and has maximum word limit of 3,000 words. Yes, you could make a plugin to add more purple prose. I think there are some of those. Yeah, and then edit out selectively. There, I can show you some other plugins in a moment. Maximum of 300 words input plus output. It brings in information from your character box in Story Bible. So you may want to remove extraneous characters from the box before running this plugin. Recommended maximum length of highlighted text is about 1,000 words. That way, it can input those 1,000 words you highlight. It can output about 1,000 words as it rewrites your text, and it leaves a little wiggle room for what's in your character box and what's in the instruction box, because all of those things are taken into account when the plugin runs, as for, you know, the limit of input plus output. This is all input. So if we turn the instructions back to visible, I'm going to save the plugin. We are coming towards the end of class, but I can go a little late if we have questions. And then we'll see again here. You can click on the plugin and the instructions are back. And now it also has more descriptions, more of a description for anyone who wants to use the plugin. It tells you what the model is, what the maximum word limit is, what information you should fill out before using the plugin. So if you don't have characters in your character box, you're probably not going to want to use this plugin. You'll want to use a different type of plugin. Maybe write your own that doesn't use the character box, because the instructions are right here. You can just, if you wanted to, you could copy and paste the instructions here and remove the part from the characters list. Yes, and that's another reason people might choose to hide the instructions, is because they don't want somebody else just to clone their work. But since we built this in class together, I'm gonna leave these instructions here, but I have to admit, I'm going to be editing this later to better match the other plugin I've written for perspective change, which I will show you for comparison's sake, because it did take me some time to get it right. I did hide the instructions for it, but here's the description I wrote. Yes, I have written a bunch of plugins, which is part of the reason why I was able to take over plugin school from Michael once I became an ambassador. But for this, I wrote in the directions that you can see here. This plugin will switch your third-person prose to first-person POV past tense based on who you've indicated is the main character in the series Bible's characters field. And then I use emojis for emphasis. This is something I intend to do a best practices for plugin authors class for one of these weeks. I use emojis to draw attention to things in my plugin descriptions. You must have indicated the main character in the series Bible for this to work properly. It will work even better if you also indicate pronouns for your characters and what their relationships are to the POV character. This will not rewrite the text you highlight to make it sound better in the new POV. It will only switch up the perspective so you can decide how you would like to rewrite it yourself. You can highlight up to 5,000 words with the G. Did it switch, or did I? Am I using a different model here? Yeah, I'm using a slightly different model, the Turbo 16K, which works with up to 12,000 words of input plus output. That's something you can only do if you're doing an advanced plugin, though. So we're not going to worry about that part right now. But as you can see, here's the name field. Here's the description field that we were able to see on the plugin page. There's a bunch of advanced stuff. This is Can I view this? I don't know if I can view this in basic. Yeah, it's not gonna, it looks like you added this plugin in the advanced editor and is no longer compatible. But just to show you how it's a little bit different, and this is the part that I need to add to the plugin we just made today, has the highlighted text, the characters. Only rewrite the highlighted text to first person past tense POV using the main character's name, pronouns, and relationships for reference. And I included, and you don't have to write instructions in capital letters, but I did it for emphasis for myself because it made me feel better when I was writing it. Only rewrite the passage to change POV. Do not make it longer or add additional details. Do not change punctuation, adjectives, or descriptions except to reflect POV change. And I only came up with this description because I kept testing the plugin and I was not getting the results that I wanted. And that's one of the reasons why you always want to test your plugins that you're writing. Because if they're not doing what you want them to do, you're going to want to keep working on it until it works and does what you want to do. It can be really frustrating and tedious. Oh, thank you, Tomas. It can be frustrating and tedious when you think you've described exactly how you want it to work in your instructions, but the AI isn't quite understanding you, and you have to use the words that the LLM will understand in order to make it do the right thing. And I thought we'd be able to do more than one plugin today, but I guess I rambled a bit and we went back and forth with my with my story and stuff. But I hope you were able to understand how to basically, well, not how to basically, how to write a basic plugin. This remove button here will only remove the plugin from your list of available plugins. Yes, we moved very fast here. I normally spend a couple of hours, not all at the same time necessarily, but over, a day or two, I'll go back in and revise the plugin and keep trying to refine it until it works exactly how I want it to be. Not every plugin that I write works exactly how I'd like it to be, and I indicate that in the description when it doesn't. Because there are things that sometimes the AI just can't figure out. Like I have a disability sensitivity reader plugin and it is highly imperfect. But it at least gives people an idea of what a sensitivity reader might say. That is an advanced plugin though. So I'm not even going to show it to you right now because the instructions are quite lengthy. But yeah, you can, when you go to edit, you did ask about if you can delete your plugin, and I'm trying to find that because there is a way to do it. Is it only with advanced?
Right on your left. Go down a little bit. It's in red.
Oh,
There.
yes, delete plugin right here. If you decide that, you know what, this plugin is broken, because sometimes you write a great plugin and it works well and it does exactly what you want, but then, the LLM changes how it works because it's being, they've done something behind the scenes and it works a little bit differently, and suddenly it no longer does what you want it to do. And if you think it's a lost cause, you can delete the plugin. And, since I am going to, I want to rewrite this to be more like the switch from third person to first person. I'll show you what happens when you delete it. It tells you, are you sure you want to delete this plugin? And you have to click OK so that you don't accidentally delete your plugin. because you don't want to accidentally delete your plugin if it's something that you've worked really hard on, because there is no way to undo it. But we're going to do this, and it will dump you right back to the plugin page. Go to your plugins, and it's not there anymore. It was listed here first since it was my newest one. And yeah, it's gone. So you can do that if you want. You can edit it, you can save it, you can, publish, you can even unpublish it. Like, let's take character quirks here. If I wanted to, I could change it to unlisted so that other people could no longer find it in the directory, but I could still get to it. And anybody who had already added it could still use it, but it just wouldn't appear in the directory anymore. Character development is not a good category for, you use mostly unlisted plugins. I know a lot of people have their own personal plugins that they keep unlisted. I don't have any of those yet because I haven't figured out how to write the ones that I would do that for, that are, particular to me. Yes, story specific ones are what you would use for unlisted. But basically, the ones I've written, I intend for other people to use. So I have them all listed as of today. Does anybody have any questions about basic plugins? Was everything, I know it was a little bit all over the place. Does anybody have any questions about, is there any way to contact the maker of another plugin? Currently, there is no way to contact a plugin author, but except for, yes, you can try to reach them on the Sudowrite Discord, but if they're not in Discord, you're not going to be able to contact them. They are, I believe, working on a way for people to provide feedback to plugin authors, which would be super helpful. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'll get to the rest of the questions after that. Thank you all for coming. Next week, we will be working on building advanced plugins. So we'll go more in depth into what you can do when you start to add more variables.